edition of HR Hot Topics. I'm your host, Jodi Schafer, and I'm coming to you live from my backyard. It's just too beautiful to be inside this evening, and I'm actually filming this Sunday night. So I was doing yard work today, so that's why I look so casual. But actually, what I'm talking to you about this month has to do with summer. It has to do with how we spend our free time, and it has to do with a lot of questions I've been getting lately around travel. So now that most of us are back to work, and for those of you that aren't, June 15th is right around the corner. So I'm excited for all of my clients to start moving in the right direction again. But it does bring with it its own set of challenges. And the one specific one I want to talk about this month is time off requests in the wake of COVID. Now, time off requests in and of themselves aren't the difficult part here, aside from staffing and knowing that for many of you, you were closed for 2.5 to 3 months, and as a result may have a backlog of work or clients or patients, right, or customers that need to be seen. So that is a bit of a juggle, knowing that you need all hands on deck, and yet we're hitting the time of year when a lot of folks typically request time off for family vacations. So we're going to have to juggle that a bit. But the other thing that compounds this are travel restrictions, specifically because of COVID. And one of the things I want to talk about, and I'm looking at my lap here, I've pulled information from 3 different county health department websites. I pulled Ingham County Health Department, Washtenaw County, and Oakland County. And what I was looking for was to see if there was any movement in terms of guidance around travel restrictions. And pleasantly surprised, yes, there is. And so I'm excited to share this with all of you because I think it's going to be welcome news. A few weeks ago, if you had looked at the health screening form, the workplace health screening form on Ingham County's website, so I'll just use theirs as an example, it asked 2 questions at the bottom. So there were all the symptom questions at the top. And then it asked 2 questions at the bottom, and it's, those questions were, have you had close contact with anyone that was diagnosed with COVID in the past 14 days? And then the second one had to do with travel. So in the past 14 days, have you traveled internationally or domestically, right, within the U.S.? And if you answered yes to that, then you were instructed, if you worked in Ingham County, to be home, self-quarantine for 14 days. Now, this is the challenging part, and this is the reason that I'm getting all of the phone calls. It's hard enough to rework the schedule so that an employee can have a previously approved time off request, or a time off that they would typically take every single year, and we don't want to have to say no to that just because we're coming back from this pandemic. But the difficulty is I can afford to be without you for a week, maybe, right? I can rework the schedule. But if you have to self-quarantine for 14 days on the tail end of that trip, I'm now looking at being without you for 3 weeks, and that's a hardship. And it was putting employers in this really awkward spot of having to potentially deny a time off request at a time when we all just want to keep those travel plans in place because we probably canceled our spring break travel plans, but wondering how we're going to do that and still meet the needs of the business. So in preparation for talking about this topic, like I said, I went on 3 different county websites. I pulled up the health screening forms, and I was pleasantly surprised because on Ingham's, their current one that's on their website doesn't even ask about travel. Totally silent. It asks questions on symptoms, and those have changed too, by the way. So you're going to want to take a look at this if it's been a while since you've pulled your forms. Now, one symptom doesn't automatically put you out of work. Depends on what the symptom is. For some of these symptoms, you have to have 2 or more of them before you're out of work. So take a look at that piece. But the other thing, and this is what I was keying in on, is that the last question on this form is, have you had close contact with an individual diagnosed with COVID? It says nothing about travel, domestic or international. It's just silent on it. So in Ingham County, it's not even a question you have to ask. You don't have to worry about it. If your employee comes back from vacation and you fill out the health screening form at the start of that next shift, just like you always would, and they are not symptomatic, they answer no to all of those questions, they're free to come back to work. They do not have to self-quarantine for 14 days. So I thought, is this across the board, right? So then I pulled Washtenaw counties to take a look at theirs. Washtenaw County still asks the question about travel, but it is only specific to international travel. The question is, in the past 14 days, have you traveled internationally? And if you answer yes to that, then in Washtenaw County, they recommend that you are self-quarantining for 14 days afterwards. But if you're traveling in the country, if you're going to California to visit family, if you're going to drive to Ohio to do camping over the 4th of July, doesn't even ask. You can come back to work right after that. You don't have to stay home. So long as you're not symptomatic, you're good to go. Oakland County, exact same thing. Oakland County specifically asks about international travel only, not domestic travel, not air travel. Good to go. So I bring this up because I was surprised to see it. I was hopeful that we were going to move in this direction. I wasn't sure how we would sustain, this 14-day mandatory quarantine after travel, knowing that we're coming up to the summer months. But I just hadn't heard a lot about it. I hadn't read anything about it. And yet, lo and behold, there it is in black and white. So if it's been a few weeks since you've gone to your county health department website, I encourage all of you to go there, do that. Take a look specifically at the workplace health screening form to see what it says about travel and if it even asks about travel. And again, some of those symptoms questions have been updated as well. So if you've pulled the form previously, it may behoove you to go and just see if there's been any changes and pull the most recent form. One final note too, as I was kind of looking at county health department websites, Washtenaw County has an 8-page FAQ that I thought was excellent. And it talks about travel questions. It talks about if employees are symptomatic, what do you have to do? And I thought it gave an incredible amount of detail all in one spot. And these are the kinds of questions that we feel like aren't clearly answered on other sites. So I'm going to link to this in the email message for this month. Go ahead, take a look at it. Again, your own county health department is going to give you the best guidance for your locality, but this Washtenaw one was really good, and it kept referring back to CDC, so I feel pretty confident about that. But I hope you find this valuable. This is great news for employers, so as you look to those vacation requests that are undoubtedly going to be rolling in the next few months, just know that time off for travel does not automatically mean a 14-day quarantine on the back end, and that may make it a lot easier to say yes. So with that, I will leave you. Enjoy the sunshine. Enjoy this change in season. Enjoy back to work, folks. Stay safe, and I'll see you next month.